Hey everyone, I'm Danny Gasparini, and welcome to this virtual segment of Penn Voice. Like many other community news programs and shows, we are taking our community program, Penn Voice, and bringing it to you via my home office here in Redwood City. But the guests are still the same, and the conversation is still the same. We just wanted to be bringing you programming while we're sheltering in place. And today I am joined by Jason Galisatus, who is the executive director of the Redwood City Education Foundation. Jason, welcome.
Hi, Danny. Thanks for having me.
So I think the conversations that we're having now are all about what were we doing before this global pandemic? How is this global pandemic changing the way we are doing business today? And then what are we going to be looking for in the future? So, just in case our viewers may not really be familiar with the Redwood City Education Foundation and the work that you do, give us a couple of minutes of prior to this pandemic hitting us. What were the focus from the Redwood City Education Foundation, and what were your programs and what were you doing?
Absolutely, Danny. So we've been around since 1983, and we were founded in the wake of the Prop 13 tax cuts in 1978. And we were founded because we wanted to ensure that every student had access to the enriching opportunities in their education that make school worthwhile and fun to go to. So the main program we funded was Music for Minors. And certainly when COVID hit, a lot changed in our community. Our schools had to essentially reinvent the entire model of delivering education to students virtually overnight. And so, we saw our population facing needs that, certainly they faced challenges with before, but now under COVID has come under really acute levels and crisis levels of need. Um, we know for the most part that our district is very diverse. About 70% are Latino, about 60% are low income, defined as being eligible for free and reduced price lunch. A lot of these folks were really struggling economically before COVID because of the high cost of living. But when COVID hit and when a lot of people went out of work, we saw a wave of need, really a tidal wave of need, where folks were needing assistance paying rent, paying for basic essentials. And that's really what we pivoted to supporting to make sure that none of our families would slip through the cracks during this really difficult time.
And I do want to make sure that our viewers understand that the Redwood City Education Foundation is a private nonprofit raising monies to support the Redwood City School District. So when you were talking about the arts and music programs prior to this pandemic or prior to the coronavirus, you were raising money to be supportive of arts and culture and education for our various elementary schools, K through eighth grade schools in Redwood City. So you now mentioned that we've been hit with a pandemic where our schools are operating on a dime very differently than they were at the beginning of this year. And then how would the Redwood City Education Foundation pivot with it to bridge those gaps? We're hearing so much about the technology gaps. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the Redwood City School District and how the foundation is then responding to it.
Absolutely. Well, since you brought up digital access, it's a huge concern for students. A lot of folks don't either have, internet access at home or laptops, the hardware needed to sort of access the learning at home programming. But the good news is that the district has been working on this challenge for a really long time and actually has provided Chromebooks for every student from the second grade all the way to eighth grade. And so those students were allowed to take those Chromebooks home, and so they were able to have that access. And as for the connectivity issues with Wi-Fi, the district is embarked on a really excellent partnership with the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative to purchase, 600 hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots that kids can use to access the internet. So we're very glad that that challenge is being addressed. And again, it's a challenge that's been on the radar for the district for quite some time. But really, again, what we're seeing as far as the most acute needs for a large portion of our population was just making ends meet month to month.
Mm.
And we know that kids are not able to learn when their basic needs are not met. There's a full body of research that shows when children are facing acute instances of trauma, which include periods in which they're facing, really strong economic scarcity, that their brains are almost neurologically unable to absorb new information and to learn. And so, in order for kids to be able to learn math and reading and all the skills needed to succeed in high school, they're going to need to have their basic needs met, especially in the areas of social, emotional learning and mental health.
And how is the school district? So, I mean, if we got down to the granular level, you talk about something so very important. The learning environment with 25, 30 children in a room is tough enough with distractions and varying learning capabilities. We have students that are further up the education curve than others in the same classroom. We have children that have gaps in basic food and shelter, and then we have other students in that same classroom. And now you bring that student home and they're needing to learn via a very different mechanisms through a laptop. Their teacher is now online. A lot of this needs to be happening independently. There may be more than four people in that same room or needing to learn in the same way. So how is the foundation sort of trying to navigate through where the help and support comes, when I think that every family is probably extremely unique?
Yeah, and every family is facing challenges right now. Believe me, no matter what your economic position, it's going to be
Right.
really, really difficult to either both manage a job while raising kids and teaching them at the same time. It's a really difficult time for our school communities, and it's hard, frankly, to know to address it just because it happens so quickly from our standpoint.
Right.
And like I said, our schools are having to completely reinvent the model of education. The schools are not at all. This is not the way they do business, and they've been forced to adapt really quickly. And so, I really commend parents for being patient and working through these challenges as we all try to navigate this crisis. But as far as what our CEF is doing, um, again, we pivoted to meet the essential needs right away. And so within mere hours of the district announcing that it would move to distance learning, we launched the COVID-19 Family Relief Fund, which was intended to support rental assistance for families who needed support within the district, and it also supported buying gift cards to help parents, help families purchase the essential goods like clothes, food, groceries, medicine, et cetera. And what we're finding is that, it's certainly not sufficient to live off of, but we hope that taken, with all the other support that we're seeing from the federal government and other sources, that it will be hopefully enough to weather sort of the short-term impacts of this crisis. And we're fortunate that the community really responded to this effort. We've raised almost $340,000 so far to support those needs, which we're really, really thankful and grateful, and frankly overwhelmed with gratitude towards the community for stepping up in such a significant way.
If I were a viewer watching this program, and I either wanted to donate or get access to how I might receive some of the resources, where shall I go?
Mhm. Great. So folks can visit rcef.org and they can check out all about the fund there. It provides information on what the funds are supporting and other ways that they can help. And if you're a parent who needs help, we are asking folks to essentially go directly to the city. So the city is operating through the Fair Oaks Community Center, and that is really the one-stop shop for that we're
Okay.
directing folks to. So they can either call, but they also have an online application form where they can enter what the action, where they can actually apply for rental assistance.
Right. That's so smart, partnering with the Redwood City, the Fair Oaks Community Center, because they are far beyond, their resources are far beyond what you might just need from an education or food program. They've got so many legal aid resources. They've got, as you said, shelter, food, transportation resources, medical
Yeah.
resources. So that's a great partnership to be guiding people to. So as
Yes.
we
And
look towards, go ahead.
I was just going to say the city has been a tremendous partner with us on this. Their staff are working around the clock. I mean, so they've received hundreds and hundreds of applications from families looking for support. I mean, when we say a tidal wave of need, we are seeing orders of magnitude more people seeking assistance than ever before, and the staff are really on the front lines providing that economic aid. And the school district is administering the gift card program. They're doing through the community schools program, and they're doing incredible work, forming those direct relationships with the parents that we on the education foundation side don't necessarily have, but that we are really partnering there to make sure that the support gets directly to the family. So we think this represents the best of a public-private partnership. And later, the city council voted to essentially match the contribution that RCF was making to the program. So we hope that it spurred a broader conversation about how we can best support these families. And I'll note that we thought, we launched this fund before other funds were launched at the community foundation, at the federal government. This was something that we identified in close partnership with our partners on the ground, and that's how we were able to make that determination and target this investment. And we wouldn't be able to do it without these incredible partners who are doing the work on the ground.
Yeah, I think if I were to look back and this coronavirus, COVID-19, were in my rearview mirror, I think what I'm going to take away is the amazing resiliency and partnerships that have come out of very good organizations, well-heeled, well-run organizations, and the time in which it took almost nothing to get things on the ground. So very little hesitancy, red tape. It was all about, we have a need, how do we fill it? Let's get the dollars, the resources out to the community. And I've been extremely impressed with that. I know that we'll probably look backwards and think that we could have done it differently or faster or bigger or better. But I am amazed at the resources that have been put into the community as quickly as they have. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Danny.
We are going to be looking forward at some point in time. We are going to be looking to the future. As I had mentioned before, COVID-19 will be in our rearview mirror. However, it will have forever impacted our lives. The recovery is a long road ahead of us. So as you look past this COVID-19 relief fund and knowing that it will take families a very long time to recover and sort of to get back to education as usual, what are you looking forward to in the future for Redwood City Education Foundation?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we did respond very quickly. We, as a smaller community-based nonprofit, we have the ability to be nimble. But the reality is actually the shift has been a long time in the making, and we spent the better part of this year, certainly during my first year as executive director, really thinking critically about how we can best add value and make a difference in the community. And what we've determined is that, we are a very diverse district with very diverse sets of needs. And at some schools, the academic performance is very strong. And at other schools, the academic performance has a long way to go before we can really say that the students are prepared for high school. And so we decided, we are going to focus our resources towards the students and the schools that need it the most. And so that is a big shift in the paradigm of how we operate as an organization. And that had been well underway before COVID, and that set the condition to allow us to respond nimbly. So how do we apply that principle to the future? Well, we're thinking very hard about what the school environment is going to look like for students when they do return in the fall. And one of the areas of chief concern is certainly making sure that students are up to speed academically, and the district is working really hard to figure out, how to assess, get a baseline reading, if you will, of where students are at once they return, so that they can get students who have fallen behind during this period up to speed. And we think those efforts are really fantastic. And the other area that is really concerning to us is the issue of mental health and social emotional learning. I mentioned earlier that traumatic events really impede a child's ability to learn. And we know that the mental health needs are going to be great and that students are going to need a lot of help, going from staying at home for a very long period of time and having to enter an environment in which they're with other kids, all of whom have just gone through really difficult periods in their lives. So we want to make sure that the school environment that students return to is safe and supportive, and one that takes into account what they've just experienced. So we're thinking a lot right now about what that's going to look like next year, and that's an ongoing conversation we're having with our partners at the district.
Well, Jason, we are out of time, but I want to say thank you so very much for bringing to us yet another great partnership and resource to know and to give us great confidence that our children are being thought about. Education is happening. We are going to get through and past this COVID-19, this pandemic that we are all faced. And there's organizations like the Redwood City Education Foundation who are doing great work in partnership with a great district, the Redwood City School District, to ensure that our children are the ones that we're focused on and how they come through this community crisis. And we thank you so very much for being there 24/7, as I know your job has been 24/7.
Well, thank you, Danny, for having me today and for helping us get the word out about the work we're doing. And like you mentioned, folks can visit rcef.org if they want to support the Family Relief Fund. We are not actively fundraising towards that because we are shifting our focus to next year, but we certainly welcome folks to learn more about the work we're doing. So thank you for this opportunity, Danny.
You bet. Thanks again, Jason. I know this won't be our last conversation. And we'll see all of you next time on our virtual Penn Voice. All of these segments are available on the Penn TV website. And so we hope that you will click in, you will view, and we'll see you next time on our next segment of Virtual Penn Voice. Thanks again.